Actually, Miami of last year, I was blowing up, my phone was blowing up, and I tried not to look at it a lot. And Rafa sent me a message, but I saw it like 4 days after.
He was buried in
Yeah,
your DMs.
so I left him undelivered for 4 days, and I almost died. Don't do that, guy. But he was super nice. Yeah, he got it.
What did you write back? Because Moise didn't know what to say. I told him just say thank you. I really appreciate the text. But what'd you say to Rafa?
I mean, I said, first of all, I apologized for getting back to him so late. But no, I said thank you, and I'm fortunate enough to have seen him many times, be able to see him many times. So yeah, I say thank you all the time.
Most players finish a big win, wave to the crowd, say a few quick words, and move on. Eala did something far more memorable after her 3-set comeback win over Laura Siegemund at the Miami Open. In the middle of her post-match interview, she casually shared that Rafael Nadal had once sent her a message, and she did not even see it until 4 days later. That one detail changed the whole mood of the interview. The interviewer's face said it all, and the reaction from tennis fans filled in the rest. It was funny, unexpected, and strangely revealing all at once. Moments like that are rare because they show a player as a real person, not just an athlete standing under bright lights after a huge result. Drop a comment below and say what you think Rafael Nadal may have written to Eala after her Miami run last year. And whether moments like this show just how far she has already come in the sport. Tell us what you think.
Had Moise Kwame, the 17-year-old. He had his first ATP win come up here. He said he got a DM right after the match from Novak Djokovic.
Oh, wow.
Have you had any player or celebrity that has reached out to you that was extra special?
Well, yeah, I mean, yesterday, Peggy Go messaged me because I mentioned her on my story, and she messaged me back, and I was like, oh my gosh, and she was in my box today. I was super happy. Actually, Miami of last year, I was blowing up, my phone was blowing up, and I tried not to look at it a lot. And Rafa sent me a message, but I saw it like 4 days after.
He was buried in
yeah,
your DMs.
so I left him undelivered for 4 days, and I almost died. Don't do that, guy. But he was super nice. Yeah, he got it.
The Nadal story only hits the way it does when you understand what Eala had just gone through before she sat down for that interview. This was not a quick straight sets win that ended in comfortable fashion. She had just battled for 3 sets over 3.5 hours, and she had to survive the full Laura Siegemund experience on the other side of the net. That meant delays, complaints, rhythm changes, conversations with the umpire, and the kind of stop-start match flow that can pull players out of their game if they let it. The first set showed exactly how tricky the match was. Eala looked like the better player for long stretches, yet the score still had to be decided in a tiebreak. That alone told the story. She was doing a lot right, but she still had to work through all the little disruptions that can turn a tennis match into something much more draining than the scoreboard suggests. Then came the bathroom break at the beginning of the second set, which slowed everything down at the very moment Eala had started to settle in. That kind of timing was not random, and anyone who follows tennis closely knew what kind of test this was becoming. What mattered was the way Eala responded once she reset herself. The second set became a statement because she stopped letting the distractions dictate the emotional shape of the match. She got herself back under control, she trusted her game again, and she played with more authority. By the time the third set unfolded, the message was clear. Once Eala decided that the mind games were not going to work on her, they lost their power. The tricks were still there, the delays were still there, the interruptions were still there, but they no longer had the same effect. That was the real turning point. When the match ended and she walked into the interview area, her voice immediately told the story of what her body had just been through. She sounded worn down, and she even apologized for it. That made perfect sense. She had been out there for 3.5 hours, pouring every bit of energy she had into the match, and now the strain was showing in the most human way possible. She was not polished in that moment. She was spent. That made everything she said next feel even more real. Her answer landed because it did not sound rehearsed. It felt like a player speaking straight from the middle of a hard-earned win, and that honesty carried weight. She explained that this is not juniors anymore, and that line mattered. In her words, every match at this level feels like life and death because she now competes in a field where everybody can fight, everybody can hurt you, and nothing comes easy. She mentioned the Australian Open, Manila, the 500 events, and the level of the circuit she has been working through this year. That list was not there for drama. It was there to explain her reality. She made it clear that the emotion at the end of the match comes from how much these battles take out of her. Wins like this are not lucky escapes in her mind. They are difficult, demanding contests against serious opponents. And when one finally ends in your favor after that kind of effort, the emotion has to come out somewhere. That is why the scream scream at the end did not feel exaggerated. It felt earned. Every point of it was earned. That answer also revealed something bigger about where her mindset is right now. She is no longer showing up at major matches hoping to survive or simply enjoy the moment. She is walking onto court with the attitude of a player who knows she belongs there, knows the level, and knows what is required to win. She understands how hard this is, but she is not intimidated by that fact. There is a big difference between being shocked by success and being prepared for it. Eala sounded like someone living in the second category. Then the interview shifted to the stadium itself, and that brought another important layer into the conversation. This was her first time stepping back onto that center court since the Miami Open run of 2025, the run that changed everything. She came into that event as a wild card ranked 140th, then beat Jelena Ostapenko, beat Madison Keys, stunned Iga Swiatek in the quarterfinals, and reached the semifinals before falling to Jessica Pegula in 3 sets. That was the week when the tennis world stopped seeing her as a promising name and started seeing her as a real threat. That run changed her standing in the sport. It changed how fans viewed her. It changed the way tournaments handled her scheduling. It changed the way sponsors looked at her. It changed the size of the crowds around her. It changed the pressure attached to her name. 1 year later, she returned not as the surprise story of the tournament, but as the 31st seed, with 390 ranking points to defend and with far more attention than she had the year before. By this point, the fan base that followed her had grown far beyond one event or one country. It had spread across continents, and Miami already knew that from experience. Before the tournament even began, James Blake had made it clear that she would be playing on center court because placing her anywhere smaller no longer made practical sense. That was not hype. That was event management responding to reality. So yes, when she walked back onto that stadium court, there were nerves. She admitted that openly. The important part was what she said next. Even after losing the first set, she was still happy with the level she was producing. She felt she was competing well. She felt she was still right there in the match, and she knew the work had already been done before the tournament started. That part matters because it shows where her confidence now comes from. This was not the confidence of a player hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. This was the confidence of someone who had prepared properly, trusted the work, and knew she had enough in the tank even if the match got difficult. Her fitness was there. Her game was there. Her belief was there. The momentum from the past year, from the growth since last Miami, from the push through events like Indian Wells, and from everything else she had built, all of that was already in her pocket before she ever walked onto the court. That is a very different feeling from the one a wild card carries. A wild card can play loose because expectations are low and there is nothing to protect. A seeded player steps in with a record, a ranking, and a place to defend. One version of confidence comes from freedom. The other comes from identity. Eala's answer showed that she has made that shift mentally. She is no longer entering these stages like a guest. She enters them like she belongs. The conversation then moved to the crowd, and this part turned funny in the best way. The interviewer asked if there had been any city that surprised her with how strong the Filipino support was, any place where the turnout caught her off guard. Eala smiled and basically said no, because Filipinos are everywhere. It was a simple answer, but it carried a lot inside it. By now, she has played in enough places to know that the Filipino diaspora does not leave many gaps. The tour can move from one part of the world to another, and there will still be Filipinos in the stands, still waving flags, still calling her name, still turning matches into something that feels much bigger than the round listed on the draw. That kind of support is not ordinary, and she clearly understands how unusual it is. Still, one event did surprise her. She brought up the Australian Open and said that after one of her matches, she saw video clips showing a line of people stretching outside her court. That really struck her. She had been in qualifying, not even in the main draw yet, and the line to get in was longer than she expected. That was the kind of moment that tells you your profile is growing even before the rankings fully catch up to it. What made that story stronger was the timing. She was not yet the player she is now. Her ranking was lower. Her profile was still forming. Many casual tennis fans still did not know her name, yet the crowd was already there, already waiting, already turning a qualifying match into an event. That does not happen by accident, and it certainly does not happen for everybody. The Miami tournament director had already said something similar before this year's event. He explained that he learned his lesson last year because Alex Eala and João Fonseca had to be placed on the biggest courts available. The crowds were going to find them anyway, no matter what the seating chart said. And he also pointed out that the international interest in both players was so strong that their matches were always going to draw fans from all over the world, creating an atmosphere that would feel close to a home match. That is exactly what happened. Hard Rock Stadium was loud for her match against Laura Siegemund in a way that usually belongs to later rounds and bigger billing. The Filipino fans did what they always do when one of their own is out there in a major moment. They showed up in full voice, stayed with every twist in the match, and turned the place into something electric. That was not background noise. It was a real presence, and you could feel it through the screen. Then the interview moved into the part that made everybody watching lean in a little closer. The interviewer brought up Moise Kwame, now the 17-year-old who had recently won his first ATP match, and later shared that Novak Djokovic had sent him a direct message after the win. That opened the door to a much more personal question. Had Alex Eala ever received a message from a player or a celebrity after a big win that really meant something to her? She paused and thought about it. First, she mentioned Pegula, saying that another player had messaged her the day before after being tagged in a story and had even been in her box for the Siegmund match. Then came the line that changed the whole energy of the interview. She said that after Miami last year, when her phone was blowing up with messages and she was trying not to look at it too much, Rafael Nadal had sent her a message. Then she smiled and admitted that she did not see it until 4 days later, and she had left Rafael Nadal on unread for 4 days. The interviewer's reaction was perfect because there is really only one proper reaction to that kind of confession. It was disbelief mixed with pure enjoyment. Out of everything she could have revealed, that was the detail nobody saw coming. It was hilarious, but it also made total sense once she explained the situation. Her phone had exploded after one of the biggest weeks of her professional life. Messages were coming in from everywhere, and she was trying not to get swallowed by all that noise because the tournament was still going on. She still had matches to think about. She still had to protect her focus. So buried somewhere inside that flood of unread messages was one from Rafael Nadal, and she simply did not see it. That image is funny because of who Nadal is. This is not just any famous athlete. This is one of the most decorated competitors in the history of sport. While Eala was busy living through the semifinals of the Miami Open, Rafael Nadal was sitting there as one more unread notification on her phone for 4 days. It sounds unbelievable, which is exactly why it is so good. She later said that when she finally noticed the message, she almost died. That felt honest too. Anyone would have had the same reaction. You miss a text from Rafael Nadal for 4 days, then finally open your phone and realize what happened, and yes, your heart is probably going to jump. She did not reveal the exact words Nadal used, but she said he was super nice. She also said she apologized for replying so late. That alone gave the whole story another layer, because the connection between them is not random, and it is not based on celebrity from a distance. There is real history there. Eala spent key years of her development at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. She joined that system at 13, and the academy became one of the main places where her game, discipline, and competitive habits were shaped. That means Nadal is not just a global icon she admires from afar. He is tied directly to her tennis journey. When you watch the way she competes, that connection is not hard to see. The persistence point to point, the refusal to quit on rallies that look over, the emotional honesty, the willingness to suffer through a long match and stay mentally locked in, those things fit naturally with the environment built around Nadal's tennis philosophy. Tony Nadal, who now coaches her directly, has kept developing that side of her game, which makes the link even more meaningful. So when Rafael Nadal sent that message, it was not some random star reaching out after a viral result. It was a major figure in her actual tennis life, acknowledging a breakthrough moment that mattered. He understood the size of it, and so did she. That is what gave the story its emotional pull beneath the humor. The interviewer pointed out that Nadal had seen what she did. Eala laughed at that, then explained that she thanked him, told him she appreciated the message, and said that she has been lucky enough to see him many times in person, so she says thank you to him often. That line may have sounded casual, but it said a lot. She was not starstruck in the way people might expect. She was grateful, respectful, and fully aware of how special it was. But she was not overwhelmed by it. That is the kind of balance you only hear from someone who has been around this level long enough to feel comfortable in it. She understands what Rafael Nadal means to tennis, but she also now speaks from inside a world where those interactions are part of her real life. That is a huge sign of growth. Near the end of the interview, the conversation returned to the possible rematch with Iga Swiatek. The matchup tennis fans had been circling ever since the draw came out. Eala said she would love for it to happen. She also made it clear that the important thing for her in that moment was the step she had just taken by getting herself into the third round. Whether the opponent would be Iga or Magda, she had done what she needed to do and she was happy with that. That was exactly the right tone. So she did not sound scared of the rematch. She did not sound obsessed with it either. She sounded ready. She had done the work, survived a brutal match, handled the moment, and placed herself in position for whatever came next. That was her focus. So that is where this story leaves us. Eala fought through Laura Siegmund in 3 sets after more than 3.5 hours on court, stood there with a voice that showed every minute of the battle, talked openly about the emotion that came pouring out at the end, reflected on how different life feels now at this level, spoke about the pressure and support that follow her from city to city, and then casually revealed that she once left Rafael Nadal on unread for 4 days. That detail alone would have been enough to make the interview memorable, but it hit even harder because it came in the middle of a much bigger picture. This was not just a funny story. It was a snapshot of who she is becoming. She is now deep enough into this world that Rafael Nadal is sending her messages. Tournament directors are planning around her crowds and center courts are filling because people know her name. And yet through all of that, she still comes across as grounded, open, and real. She can laugh at herself, thank the people who matter, and then go right back out and handle a complicated match against a difficult opponent. That is a big part of why this Miami 2026 chapter has been so easy to follow and so hard to forget. She left Rafael Nadal on unread for 4 days, nearly had a heart attack when she finally saw the message, and then went out and beat Laura Siegmund in 3 sets. That is not just a great tennis story. That is one of the best sports stories happening right now. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What do you think Nadal said to Eala after that Miami run?